It's a wonderful good morning to you, Grenada, Carrick, Petty Martinique, the rest of the Eastern Caribbean, to you wherever you are. It is the 30th day, literally the last day. It is official in the month of November. Welcome to The Point for yet another day in the month of December. And Joseph Cadore, we say thanks for being part of the broadcast. Good morning to those of you that's on Classic 105.5, 105.9. If you're chiming in via GBN television, or you're probably on the Facebook page, YouTube channel, or you are on the World Wide Web at www.gbn.gg. GD, welcome to the program. My guest this morning from the Criminal Investigation Department, Detective Constable Garfield Charles. And this morning, as you would possibly imagine, as we inch closer to the holiday seasons, 25 days before Christmas, the conversation would surround online shopping. How safe do you feel this become part of the new frontier where no longer do we walk into stores and it has become the acceptable thing to do because due to COVID-19 protocols? We've embraced it as a way of life, but certainly we need to keep ourselves in the know. And this morning I want to say welcome to Officer Charles. How are you, sir?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm doing all right for the time.
Yes. Thank you and welcome. Go ahead.
Say good morning to the viewing and listening audience out there.
Well, thank you and welcome to the program. Officer Constable, you would agree that online shopping has become the new frontier. It is what it is, and there's no turning back the clock when it comes to that. But let's first talk about some of the new trends that is out there when it comes to online shopping. There are things you would agree that individuals they need to be conscious of. But first, let's start with the trends in terms of what is the expected things that they should know if they were to engage in online shopping.
Right. So, on the topic of online shopping, right, there is numerous aspects as associated with it. It's just not easy walk in the park.
Okay.
Right, for better, right? So as you said earlier, with the advent of the current atmosphere in the world today with COVID-19, right, this has forced, you could say, the whole world to more or less resort to some sort of computer-based activity. So, and one of that, the main thing is online shopping. And there's a lot of risk associated with it. So, what are some of the things that you need to look out for concerning online shopping? Is normally, as it comes to online, one thing is the use of your credit card, because you cannot it's not walking into a physical store to make a purchase. It is done virtually. So the key aspect to it is having a card, some form of, digital currency as it is called now. So it's no longer walking in and giving and handing your money over to the shop steward or to the cashier. So it's done electronically. So one of the things that you have to be mindful of is having a credit card that has a good dispute resolution process. Okay, so in Grenada, what we have is that many of our credit cards are issued by the major financial institutions, be it the banks or nowadays you have the credit unions also issuing cards. Unlike the developed world, America and Europe and so, where you have not the banks, but you have other merchants, like you have the Amazon, the eBays and so, who offer you cards. We're not at that level in Grenada as yet. So the good thing about it is that the banks issue the cards here. So when it comes to if an issue arises, you can walk into the bank, file a complaint, and you are sure that someone will get on it right away. So this is one of the first points when it comes to online shopping is the dispute resolution process, so we don't have an issue with that per se in Grenada. So another issue here is when you to shop online, well, definitely you have to do it over a medium. So normally it's over the internet. So when it comes to going on a web browser, say Google Chrome, well, most people use Google Chrome. Internet Explorer is a thing of the past. So
that is true.
I think Microsoft tried inventing it with Microsoft Edge, but I think Google Chrome has taken them together with Firefox and these other browsers. So when you go online, what you need to look for is the security features,
right,
which I believe that persons who patronize the online shopping sites like Amazon, the eBays, the Walmart, the Targets, and just to name a few, when you go online, you may just go and type in www. or you might just say amazon.com, and it brings you to the site. But what do you look for in terms of knowing that that site is secure?
Right.
Right? So one of the things you need to look for is that in the address bar where you type in the amazon.com or the ebay.com, right, is the sign a padlock. I mean, it's small. It will be in the upper right where you're typing in the URL, as you call it, or
right,
the Amazon or ebay.com, it will be at the left. So it'll be a small padlock, and when you go to the site, is either you would normally notice either it's open or it's locked. Many of the sites, it would be locked and green, telling you that the site is secure. If you go to a site that is not secure, it would be unlocked. Right? So that would tell you now that the site is not secure. So you're basically shopping at your own risk.
And when you say not secure, what exactly, how does that translate to an open risk to the consumer?
Right. So when I say not secure, meaning that you shopping on that site, there is no guarantee that your transaction will be processed by whoever the merchant is.
Okay.
You may enter your card details for an item and you never receive it. But with the Amazons and so, this shows that their servers are secured from, well, yes, let me reiterate that, right? So when you go on, that the servers that the Amazon operate is secured from hackers.
Okay.
Put it that way. The site that is not secured, they are vulnerable to hacks then. So to hackers exploiting those servers that process the transactions.
Outside of the issue of its availability to hackers, could it possibly be that while it could be a duplicate site or somebody using a machine that's mirroring Amazon.com, so it shows it's Amazon.com, but really and truly it could be some fake company, and that's why it's important that you use that secure, you look for that padlock.
Yes, and you're on point with that. So yes, because there are many, hackers are very creative. They can just create a website in the space of a couple of minutes or so. Just a front page. And you going on there, you see the Amazon logo, you think, hey, this is Amazon.com, and it's not.
And not just that, you see some crazy deals as well.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
the first thing you want to say in terms of security is in the URL bar, ensure that you put in, you look for the padlock.
Yes. It's normally at the right where you type in your address, the website, the Amazon, eBay, or whatever, Walmart, Target.
Right.
It's right there at the left.
Would you advise, because normally everything, your browser saves everything for you. So, and would you advise a good thing that persons would probably type the URL into the address bar, type it in full, or sometimes we just normally put it up from the address bar? Which would be the proper thing to do? Each time I go, type it in?
No, not necessarily, because nowadays it's different from when the internet just came out. Nowadays, what you have, you have cookies.
Right.
So that what happens is that once you would have visited a site before, that's saved. So all you just have to do is just go back and type in Amazon.com, and it will just automatically pop up as a suggestion.
No, but I was asking that in a context because I know there is software out there that literally it mirrors everything that's on your browser. So it looks at your cookies, it sees that it's already a saved site. So it means once you hit Amazon, all of those sites are going to pop up. If I type it in full, it means it would take a little bit longer because it's not using the cookies, it's not recognizing it. It would take a little bit longer. Does that in any way would affect, let's say, a hacker that is there monitoring that particular mirroring the data or so that is on your that's on the browser already?
Well, yes, you're right, and I see where you're coming from. That it's better, yes, that you type it out in full rather than we look for a suggestion to pop up.
Right.
Because that's how the hackers you get to go to a site that you may think is Amazon, but it's not.
Right.
So it's better, yes, if you type it out in full. And while you're on that point, I just had to touch on the same URL. There are HTTP and HTTPS. The HTTP sites are normally the unsecured sites. So normally, if you go to your web browser and you have to type in Amazon.com, right, and the page loads, if you look in the URL bar, you see HTTPS come up. So that's how you know you're on the actual Amazon site.
Right.
But if you go on the site and see HTTP, that means that's an unsecured domain.
So it means that there must be a greater sense of consciousness. You can't just be going there and just wandering around. You have to look for those tells. So one, the padlock, and the HTTPS, which would let you know it is a secure site.
Right.
It is secure. Okay, great.
But unconsciously, what happens is that you might be sitting there and you might say, "Oh, I need a new pair of shoes. I need a new phone," and you do not think about the security aspect. You just go, okay, I need to go on Amazon, and you're not paying attention to this minute stuff that makes a big difference at the end of the day.
It's minor things that, of course, changes a whole lot. Okay, so there is the ensuring the security element, ensuring that you're in a site that is secure. What are some of the other things that we should be looking for?
Right. One other thing is to do proper research on that online shopping portal.
Right.
And that is key. Online, I have to draw a lot of reference to the Amazons and the eBays because I guess that's the most popular online shopping sites. But there are others that you may go to by sometimes you go to Google and you say, okay, you're looking for a particular item, but not a site.
Right.
So you say, okay, I'm looking for, let's say, you might say looking for some vehicle parts. And you might go typing in, you're looking for parts for, you put the year, make, and model of the vehicle. And then you see a site pop up saying that they offer parts for that vehicle.
Right. So
you go and you click on that site, not checking the security aspects of it. So, and without no research, you might say, okay, well, I need this part. Maybe it's not available locally. And you just go ahead because maybe it's a rare part and you need it to get your vehicle up and running. And you just go ahead without, as I say, paying attention to the minute stuff as the HTTP or HTTPS or the padlock being locked or unlocked. And you just go ahead with your purchase without doing any form of research.
As you on the conversation of research, Constable, is it possible that I can be directed to, because when you on Google, you're looking for sneakers. There's always, they will tell you, there's always offering. They redirect you to different things. Well, they also, who purchase sneakers, they purchase lace and shorts as well. Is it possible that I can be on a website that says has the padlock, it says it's secure, but could be a fake?
Yes, it's possible, because I tell you, hackers are very creative persons. So they can go and pay for a secure domain, because today anybody could go and pay for a domain name.
Right.
And whether what someone paying for the secure one might be more expensive than paying for the unsecured one. So some of them, a hacker who is very creative and puts a lot of time and effort into his craft, would make the site look as authentic as possible.
And I'm assuming you would suggest, for instance, but how would you be able to tell? What should you look for? I go on a site, maybe the prices, it just look ridiculously low, and you're telling yourself, that's too cheap, it can't be?
Well, that's one, but some of the things is customer reviews.
Okay.
Because sometimes you go on the site and you see a product and you say, okay, I need the product. What has the product been purchased before? What does customers have to say?
Right.
Then again, this is can be as well that sometimes the same hacker put up 5-6 reviews and he himself type in the reviews. So that's why all these things you see, have to be cautious. So you have to even look at what is the policy of the company, right? What are their if they have any disputes, how do they resolve it?
So it means Constable, that we should not, the whole idea of going to shop online. There are some sites we know. So locally, we know they're our local merchants. We know those. Those are easy.
Yeah.
Right. And we've intimated that. You can just run to them and say, listen, X, Y, and Z. Would you suggest you're there and a site, because it happens to pop-up sites, and you click on it and you see, wow, they give you some deals. I normally would suggest maybe a good idea, Mabel, to just go Google their office itself, see their address.
Right.
Do they have an actual telephone number? Try calling the number.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Would you recommend those?
That's a good point. Yes, I recommend that as well, because sometimes the number is just there as a show.
Right.
There's no office. It's not. There is no way of contacting that company. You always look to see, most of the times on most online sites now you have what they call customer service. You can chat with a representative or so. Sometimes these sites don't have these sort of features.
And I mean,
all that is key.
And as they say, while there's no guarantee, it is highly unlikely that they would go to that an extent, because in most cases they're just trying to catch the unassuming person.
Right.
So
yes, because, as I say, the average let's put it this way, that the person that is not that technologically savvy in terms of looking for the red flags when it comes to that may not consider all these things, are looking for the HTTPS,
right,
looking for what you mentioned, to see if there's a physical address for the company or a phone number or some email that you can reach out to the company if you have questions about the product before you buy it, or they have no customer reviews. Sometimes you might look and something has been purchased and the customer review that was left was sometimes it's not current.
Right.
So sometimes, as I said, the hacker might have just done 3-4 custom reviews to make you feel that it's authentic. But most of the time when you do a customer review, you would look to see the time, the date that the review was posted.
Right.
And so if you pay attention to it close, you realize that sometimes that review was posted since 2015. And we're now in 2021. So how much? So what you have to be mindful is that product was purchased since 2015. That was the last review for the product. We're now in 2021.
So if all these years later nobody has commented on it, it probably is reasons enough to become suspicious.
Suspicious, yes, because especially if it's a popular product.
Right.
That it's a popular product out there on the market, like say like one of the latest smartphones or sneakers or clothing or whatever it may be.
You're right.
it's always important to look at when that review was left.
And it would obviously, would you suggest as well that the whole idea of making a call, somebody that you know, that if you're new to it, making a call to a friend, somebody that's more savvy, that interfaces with, they may probably ask the boy, just see the site pop up. You actually know that one? Because possibly if it's a known site that everybody uses, a person that's into online shopping, they would most likely know about it as well. But it would probably become suspect if I call, let's say, you know your cousin is always online, he's shopping all the time, and you ask him about a shop that says jc.gov, and he starts going, but I've never heard about that. That again may just want you to start thinking, let me just hold back a bit, maybe search some more.
Right, and yeah, that's a valid point as well, that you always reach out. If you have the slightest doubt in your mind concerning a website, reach out to somebody who you know to have a bit more knowledge concerning shopping online or so. Which could help. So sometimes it saves you the heartache at the end of the day.
And I would agree that, Constable. For those of you that just joining us, 23 minutes gone past the hour. My guest this morning is Constable Garfield Charles from the Criminal Investigation Department. We take a quick commercial break, which conversation surrounds safety online as we get into the Yuletide season. Quick break, and we'll be right back. Thank you. Welcome back to The Point for the last day in the month of November. My guest this morning from the Criminal Investigation Department is Detective Constable Garfield Charles. Detective, we've touched a lot of things, ensuring the security, the site that you want is secure. But the last point we made that we want to resonate with individuals. If you are in doubt, don't do anything.
Right.
Any measure of doubt, you have questions, something doesn't look right, you just get a strange feeling, you know what, I'm not sure, we say don't.
Don't proceed. Yeah.
Don't proceed. What about the idea of there's debit cards, credit cards, and all those sort of things. Some of the advice that you use, especially within those in the season as it is. Debit cards with limited amount of cash on it.
Right. So that was the point I was going into. I'm glad that you bring it up. So when you're shopping online, one of a good thing that how should I put it? A good practice.
Right.
Should be that you have debit cards, you have credit cards. Mm-hmm. But my advice to anyone is use a card with limited amount of funds as I suggested. So you want to purchase an item for, let's say, $150 US, you put that $150 US on the card. So even if the card gets compromised, there is no cash for the hacker on the other end to get access to. Right? Also, when you go to many of the sites, you are allowed to open an account,
right,
where you can store your credit card information, again, like the Amazons, the eBays, and so. You can store your information, your billing and shipping address there, right? However, there are sites that's another key pointer. There are sites that you cannot open an account, but they may ask you do you want to store your credit card information? So therefore, now, who has access to this information if you cannot open an account? And make it worse if it's on an unsecured site, one of the sites that says it's a HTTP URL, or it has the padlock that is open. Who has access to that information on the back end? So that's why it is very important that you use a card with a limited amount of funds. So, but it's best to have a card just for shopping.
Would you also
Yeah, go ahead.
Would you also suggest, because I'm asking because I've had all these crazy experiences already. I mean, it's what hackers wouldn't try. And tell me your thoughts on this. I've actually tried myself, especially if you know holiday season's coming, you want to get into the habit of shop, because online is where we're going. If you have to make a purchase, yes, there's limited purchase, a limited amount of cash, but do not commit yourself to making a transaction where that would cost me extensive. So maybe try buying something on the site for $3. They may probably promise you to be delivered within 3 days. Most sites are offering delivery within 7 days to 2 weeks. So this site is telling you 3 days, you get it. I've actually gone through the experience of trying it myself, and I bought some stuff. They said 3 days, Constable. I got it about a year and a half later.
You're right, because many of these sites, like for you, they don't have what do you have? You have partnerships. So like the major merchants will have partnerships with like FedEx, UPS, DHL, and so. With also the USPS, and as I say, they may tell you, okay, it's 3 days. But the method of shipping that they use is not DHL or UPS or FedEx. They use some of the regular posts, but on the site, and they offer you no tracking information.
Right.
So that again is also red flags. red flag to look out for. Yeah, so you are allowed to choose which merchant you want to deliver your product.
Right.
Some of the sites, they just tell you, okay, you'll be delivered in 3 days, but they don't tell you which merchant will be delivering.
Right.
And they offer you no tracking information.
That you say that should be a red flag right off the cuff.
Yes. Also, another one is clicking on links within emails, because many of times what you have is there is a new trend now called data mining,
right? Where
you go on the Google and so on, or even whilst you're on the internet or you're on the social media websites, the Facebook, the Instagram, the Twitters, right? They are hacked. There are a lot of companies, although they tell you that they don't sell your personal information, behind the scenes, you don't know what happens. They pass it on to third-party companies. So you may have gone on Amazon or eBay, and then you receive an email saying, okay, there is this sweepstake, or there is this offer.
Right.
And get a link to click to go to one of these websites. When you click on a link, it takes you to a different page. Or sometimes it goes to the site is unavailable. Right? Most of these links contain viruses that could infect your computer or your phone.
What should you do?
Although it is an authentic link, it's not.
what should be the course of action right there and then?
Well, once that happens, there's very little you can really do. But the only thing you can do is once you have like a good antivirus software installed, or anti-malware software, you may be able to many times pick up on those links.
Okay.
And either block them or quarantine them. Right. They also are like advanced routers, like the more improved routers. Like sometimes you take internet from Flow or Digicel, and you get a router that comes with the company. But many times they don't have technology within that router to block suspicious sites.
Right.
So sometimes what is good that you have a router that has that sort of technology in it that would detect these sites, and it wouldn't even allow you to go to the site, or it would not even allow that site to come up within your browser. So it would block it because it's already flagged as a suspicious site.
So
these are things.
I'm guessing the sense, Constable, that each and every one of us, we should make the effort to make a personal investment in securing our devices, whether it's a mobile phone, desktop, laptop. The onus should be on us, even if we get a software, something of the sort.
Right, because the reality about it is that from the law enforcement aspect of it, we are more, when it comes to responding to online scams and so, we are reactive because a report has to be made before we can do something.
Right.
So the onus is on the individual to take all the necessary steps to ensure that the activity online is as safe as possible, because it's not like the police is there monitoring for you.
Right. So you have to monitor yourself.
Exactly.
And that's where programs like this, it actually comes in awakening your consciousness.
Yes, definitely.
There is an issue.
Go ahead.
No, you were making a point. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, as I said, there's numerous aspects to the whole issue of online scams. Numerous aspects, and a lot too many to mention. Right? Sometimes you may say you might have to take a small course in it, because a lot of the pointers I have here, I mean, I know a lot of the listening audience may have never heard it.
And
it's on the individual.
And we're trying to keep the information as light as possible. What about the use of public Wi-Fi? That's something that's a go now. We just go sit somewhere, we connect to a Wi-Fi, and boy, we donkey glory. We log on.
Yeah, well, it seems like you're looking at the document I have in front of me, because that's the next point I have right here now, right? Concerning the use of public Wi-Fi. Right? That this is very, very, very important, because the reality about it is that these are common right now. And in Grenada, yes, public Wi-Fi is very common. You have the Flow, the Digicel, a lot of consumers, like the Flow and Digicel public Wi-Fi is what is primarily known. So what happens now is that hackers, that's a playground for them, right? There's also, on the topic of that, as you mentioned, mimicking or mirroring those Wi-Fi. And that's very easy to do, because there are devices out there that can make a Wi-Fi address look authentic. So you may sometimes, I know there is public Wi-Fi, like for instance in Tantin there, you may go and you may say, okay, Lime has a free Wi-Fi here, or Digicel has free Wi-Fi.
Right.
And you go on and log on, not knowing that it may not even be Flow or Digicel that set up that Wi-Fi there. But you may know that sometimes the service is down. But because the hacker knows that there was public Wi-Fi there, he can go and set up one of these devices. I wouldn't mention
a hotspot
of the device. Yes, I wouldn't mention the name of the device, so, but he can go and set up one of these devices there and make people believe that, yes, that the Wi-Fi is up and running, and on the back end, he's collecting all your personal information, all your card details, all of this stuff.
And in case for listeners that are probably thinking, and those of you at home, if you want to be part of the conversation, you can post your comments via the Facebook page or YouTube. But it is not hard. I'm sure most of us, and I want to make reference to our mobile devices. Each and every one of us, Constable, we've seen the hotspot tab on our phone, and I think we do it. So we somewhere, and your friend says to us, "Boy, I don't have data," and you just nicely say, "Well, let me hotspot you." It is that easy. So a hacker does not necessarily all the time need some advanced technology.
Definitely not.
So they could go to the same location and it is tagged, well, Digicel Wi-Fi or Flow Wi-Fi, and you're thinking it is legit. And then basically what is it you're doing is opening your device, you're sharing it on somebody else's device.
Yeah, great point. Yes, because with the data packages that are available with the local mobile providers.
Everybody got data these days.
Yeah, you have as much as 15 gigs of data. So It's very easy to down there broadcast a fake Wi-Fi address, and on the back end you just collecting the information of these people that log into to that fake Wi-Fi signal. I mean, sorry, so that is a key point, because not knowing whether that Wi-Fi is secure or not. You just see it's a name and you think it's authentic, Lime or Digicel, and you just log in.
And you want to be particularly careful in public spaces, and I guess that's why they tend to be much more vulnerable, because when you're in public and you're in the mall and you're shopping, you tend to be distracted a lot, Constable. So even if you're making a legitimate transaction and you're on your device, you then not to pay attention to the details as when you're home. And those hackers, they know that.
Yes. That's why I tell you, hackers are not, dumb people. A lot of them are very, very highly educated. So they know that they are fully aware of the trends of human behavior, and they exploit that. Because as I say, many of us, we just go on the internet because it's the internet. You want something, you want to post something, you want to go on Facebook, you want to go on whatever the case is, and you just go there without thinking of the ramifications behind it.
And do you often get a chance that when people hear the term hackers, they probably think of some hooded strange guy in some the basement apartment that is just fiddling around? Hacking itself is a skill that you learn. So this is not hit and miss. And I think the public needs to know this. Hackers, as you said, they are brainiacs. for use of a word. They are whiz kids.
Yes, that's true. That's so true. As I said, the term, when you look, most of them hear the term hackers, they show you a timbal with some guy wearing a dark room behind a monitor.
Far from that.
Yeah, but that's just, the image that is portrayed. But hacking is a skill.
Yes.
And in today's day, a lot of persons are deviating towards that because it's very lucrative. It's right now, I think, the most lucrative form of crime. Right now, where you don't have to go and physically rob a bank. You just sit behind a screen or behind your tablet or your mobile phone and make millions. So it's very lucrative in today's day. Not that I'm encouraging anybody to go down that line.
Well, no, well.
I'd break the law.
Well, unless you're hacking for law enforcement. But I get the point you're making. I guess
that's another level.
That's another level. We started off with, we were talking about passwords, securing your devices, and the conversation about passwords. People tend to always want to put passwords that they think is easy to remember, or they want to share passwords, or they may put basic things like welcome, they would put their names. I'm assuming that is off limits, Constable.
Yes. The reality about it is that when we hear the word password, okay, you think it's a word, password.
Right.
But it doesn't imply that. Password, you have to be very creative when it comes to creating your password. Yes, you may want to choose a password that you can't remember, but at the same time, they are persons who have a list of known passwords. So many times what would happen, like say, if your email gets compromised, they run that email against that password list.
Right.
And of the most easily, the passwords that are easily created, like say, some person might just create the name John123, right? And that's an easy password. So somebody will just create a list of that and say, okay, well, if the person name is John Smith, sometimes they might use John123.
Right.
As a password. So that when it comes to creating a password, it's good that they create what they call an alphanumeric password, including letters, numbers, and symbols.
Right.
It's very difficult. It's easy to guess numbers and letters, but if you include symbols, it's very difficult to detect that.
And if you go in numbers and letters, you want to avoid your name coupled with, let's say, your birth date, or those because that's where they start thinking.
Right. Because once your system, your mobile phone, or I'd say your lab or your tablet, because that's the most commonly used devices now. We hardly see persons with laptops or desktops anymore.
Right.
So once your phone or your tablet get compromised and say your email address and your account information, right? Normally persons, when they make an account, you use your exact birth date, and that's dangerous because that's where it becomes easy to guess the password. Because sometimes you might just put in what you might say John, and say you were born in 1994, and you just put John 1994, and the person, okay, so let me try his first name and his birthday.
Right.
But let's say you use John 1, 2, 3, but you can say you use John, but you put you go uppercase and lowercase as well.
Right.
Which will make it be more difficult to detect, to guess that password. So let's say you start with uppercase J, and instead of using the letter O, you use the number 0.
Okay.
Right? So it will still spell John, but it's an uppercase J, the number 0 instead of the letter O. And then you might go H, N, and then you go now 1994, and you put maybe a percentage sign, a question mark, an exclamation mark. You could also use the space bar as well. A lot of persons don't know that.
Okay.
You could use the space bar because every key on it represents a character. So then you could use the space bar and maybe say hit the space bar once.
So it means you have to start thinking outside the box when it comes to your own security.
Exactly. So I hope that, well, what I mentioned, that could spark something in the minds of the listening audience in terms of how you create a password. So always try to make it alphanumeric.
Right.
Uppercase, lowercase letters, numbers, and a symbol.
And it doesn't have to make sense to anybody. And that's
No,
the
it
truth.
doesn't have to be to anybody.
So
you could even use a phrase. You could also use a phrase that, like, say, I like to go running.
right.
Right, so you can use a phrase that makes that is unique to you. It doesn't have to be your name or whatever. Or I love basketball, or I hate
Something.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
to you, it makes a whole lot of sense because you know what it means, right? It's just how young people will develop their own their codes and language. You know how to start thinking out of the box. And we keep saying that your password, it doesn't make sense. So whether or not your password is x2ky dot colon forward slash backslash, it doesn't have to make sense to anybody.
Exactly.
But then comes the question: if given that because your password is so complicated, you're forced to write it down, or you probably have to share it with somebody. Is that something you would advise? And how would you go about that? Because now you have to make sure, how do I remember this thing in my head?
Okay, so many times it'd be our advice to write it down.
Right.
If you write it down, where do you store it? Don't put it in the back of your phone case.
Point.
Use the phone. And many a times I've seen that. Some persons write the password and put it under the battery cover or in the back of the phone case. Right? So don't. So you'd want to write it down and put it in a secure place where maybe you alone have access to it.
Somewhere in your home would be probably
right. There are these days what they call password managers.
right.
There's a lot of them there. You could go on the app in the app stores, the Apple Store, the Google Store, even online, because they have website where most of the apps are associated with actual web browser. Web browser. So you can go online and access it there as well. But then again, it's still risky, because what if that company gets compromised? A hacker takes down the company servers. They may tell you that all your data is encrypted, but then again, it's still risky. The best thing to me is write it down and put it somewhere where you alone basically know where it is.
Yeah, that's why I like what you said, the idea of the slang or the phrase. Maybe a joke that from something from your childhood, something know that is, it makes perfect sense to you, but for anybody else it seems almost comical. Constable, we literally running out of time, and we have not even touched. I know there's so much that we can actually talk about. So we talk about using a strong password. And when you say a strong password is not necessarily has to do with the length of the password, does it? But strong in the context of the combination of alphanumeric and other characters.
Right. Most online portals would tell you your password need to be at least 8 characters.
Right.
So I would say if you do a phrase, it will pass 8 characters.
Okay.
Definitely off the bat. If you have to sit down and create a password, then you have to be mindful, okay, I need 8 characters. What do I put in that password? Sometimes just as a user phrase that is unique to you, yes, it is an excellent idea. One last point I'd like to bring out is we spoke the issue of fake apps, because everybody is on the mobile device these days. So you may go into the Play Store or the Apple Store, or as I say, Play Store, which is Google Store, and download apps. Like one of the most famous one I noticed is the user is GB WhatsApp. A lot of persons use it because it have more features than the actual WhatsApp itself.
Right.
But then again, taking into consideration, is the data on the back end secure? What you put in, is that secure? You may want to say, okay, it might be secure because Facebook, who owns WhatsApp, right? There you can say the servers are pretty much secure. Not that it cannot be hacked. but you be aware of, because even in the Apple Store and in the Google Store, they have had issues where persons were successful in uploading fake apps. But primarily, Apple is a bit more, well, I'll just say a bit more secure, because they have to scrutinize each app before they make it available for the customer. The Google Store or Play Store is a bit more open source, so they maybe the scrutiny level is not that high with on that end with Android devices, which is the most popular device.
Right.
So I'll be very aware of fake apps, because another trend is persons using their mobile device and take photos of their credit cards and send it over a message to a family member or a friend or whatever the case is. That's a no-no, because you don't know who's on the other end looking at that information.
Right.
You may think, okay, well, it's WhatsApp, or the person needs to see the card details. Let me just photograph the back and the front of the card and send it out. Very dangerous.
Sometimes the things we take for granted. In an attempt of Constable, before we wrap, we talk about security apps. Sometimes people go as far as wanting to use VPN. And is that the ultimate, or does that still come with some risk that people need to be conscious of?
Well, as I said, I feel maybe I have the same documentary, because all this point is right there. That's the next point. Yes, VPN, yes. VPN is a good extra layer of security.
Right.
Because what it happens, what you have is, you have the user, which is you, and then you have the merchant. But VPN comes in the middle, giving you an additional layer of security and encryption. As I said, what VPN tends to do is mask your actual original IP address, which say that, okay, you're located in Grenada. So the VPN might say you're not in Grenada, but you're in China. So what happens now is that many times provides an additional challenge for the hacker to have to bypass the merchant when the merchant server, and still bypass the servers of the VPN to get access to your data.
Right.
So yes, I would advise that VPN is a good way to go. So definitely that's one of the other do's that can be implemented to make your online experience more safe. Another thing is two-factor authentication. I had to bring that one out, because this is another extra layer of security as well, where the two-factor would come in the form of you using your fingerprint, because many apps now would ask you to use your fingerprint to verify that it's you.
Biometrics.
And not
biometrics. Yes.
Biometrics.
Right.
So also they may send a code to your device. So
right.
Like you make a purchase, and they say to make sure it's you, we're sending a code to your device, to your phone number. And then you have to say, okay, well, yes, you re-enter the code, and they say, okay, well, that's you. So, but that, in a sense, now can still be risky. Let's say somebody would have hacked your device and get your number.
Because they do clone and mirror all the devices. I mean, the truth is, the deeper we get into this concept, it probably makes people wonder, you know what, let me just carry my little 2 pence in my back pocket.
I will tell you, the internet is, yes, while it's a nice experience, but it can be very dangerous and very heartbreaking at the same time.
You could have...
financially, emotionally, it can give you a lot of heartache.
All I'll tell you is that some of us, we've learned the hard way. We have.
Yeah, so true.
We have learned the hard way. Thank you, Constable, Detective Constable Garfield Charles from the Criminal Investigation Department. And on the local level, those are things you normally would push. You've had opportunities to pursue actual crimes, cases locally.
Yes, well, the unit that I'm attached to within the criminal investigation is a digital forensic unit.
Right.
Which was formed roughly 3 years, going on 4 years. So it's a new unit that was formed and is not under the criminal investigation department. So it's a way of showing the public that the Royal Grenada Police Force is there in terms of when it comes to technological advancement and providing that assurance to the public that we're doing everything possible to keep you safe, whether in the streets or online.
We still have 25 days before Christmas, Constable. I'm hoping that before maybe the next 2 weeks, I would have to beg you the indulgence of your department for us to have another one of these sessions, and just to keep their consciousness awake. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yes, you're most welcome.
Folks, we're getting closer and closer and closer to the season. Knowledge is power. Power to make a difference and to change. Until then, so long, everybody. JC loves you. I am out of here. We are getting ready to head where we are going. It's the season. Lots of gifts to give away, places to be, people to see, a whole lot of things to do. Until then, JC loves you. I am out of here.